back.
Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking about young African-American professionals, and Pastor Walker and Mr. Brandon Van Leer are here both to give us some information in reference to some of the challenges of young African-American professionals, as well as some of the works of young African-American professionals. So let's talk about you, Mr. Van Leer, to have you to make some statements in reference to what you're doing in reference to your art, and explain to a large number of folks as to what it means to be, what do you call it, a graphics designer. Talk about that and give some examples.
Well, I give my credit to my parents. I was raised in an artistic household. My dad, he had done theater his whole life, so he does Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. He also does music as well, Little Richard and stuff like that. And my sister, she's very artistic as well. And then my mom, she's more on the organization side. So I took those skills, and I think growing up in that household has kind of pushed me to an artistic sense. And so now I use my abilities, my God-given talent that I realized, and I use it to highlight the Black community. I have a collection of about 15 portraits highlighting the Black community, from Malcolm X to Barack Obama to Maya Angelou, a lot of people who I see as good role models for us, and I don't think they're highlighted enough. And I think it's very significant that I'm Black, I'm African-American, highlighting these African-American people. And I just want to give a good impact, a good role models for the children. And also, I'm still young, so I think it makes, it's more coming from me since I'm the same age as some of the kids who are messing up and doing this and that. And so using my platform, I want to be able to give a positive role model for people my age, people younger, and just be able to help in all sense I can.
It's also important, I think, Mr. Van Leer, to demonstrate that what a graphics designer is, and how folks might be able to become a graphics designer and the importance of it. Why don't you say something about that, young Black professionals, Pastor Walker?
You know, one thing I do want to say something about that's interesting to me is that, Dr. Haynes, you know, we always talk about our environment, you know, and how our environment impacts us and stuff like that. But when you look at people talking about that, it's always from a negative stance. You very seldom hear it, and I'm gonna put it like this. You very seldom hear it spoken of from a positive stance when you're making reference to a young African-American male. It's always the negative. You know, you hear somebody, when a young African-American male gets in trouble or something, what the first thing they go about? Well, it starts in the home. It starts in the home. You know, and he didn't have any home training. The parents wasn't right, or this or that, or something like that, reflecting upon the home environment and then the environment immediately in the community that they grew up in. But now he's talking about an environment where all of his parents are all artistic and stuff like that, and it sounds like that he come from a very good family and from a very positive environment that impacted him in a positive way. So therefore, he starts off on this course of life, living life, looking not for the negative but for the positive as a result of being rooted and grounded in some positive soil. And that's what, you know, that's what steps out to me, you know. And, you know, the artwork, man, you know, when I was younger, you know, I used to like to draw, man. I would draw these cartoon characters and stuff like that. But when I got caught up in the heroin and the drugs and stuff like that, I don't know where my little skills, my little talent went, man. It just went out the window, man. It just left, you know. I had a guy about a couple of weeks ago tell me, man, you know, maybe if you just sit down and just sit patiently and, you know, and just do it, it may come back to you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. I just, you know, it just went away, you know. But to see, you know, this young brother here, man, that's not only got the talent, the God-given gift to sit there and to draw and to do what he's doing, but to reach out with it, to seek to excel and to grow in it. And not only that, but to reach out and to highlight, you know, the things that's going on, the people that represent positive things in the African-American community, people like Malcolm X, Barack Obama, Maya Angelou, and there's so many others that, you know, he haven't even named all the portraits that he have. But man, just looking at his artwork of Malcolm, man, boy.
And I was thinking that too, in a real sense, Mr. Van Leer, that to come up with a series of artists, I mean, a series of individuals that you've presented by way of your designs. What were some of the organizational principles behind these individuals? Excuse me. For example, the ones that you've demonstrated today, they are part of a larger series of 8 or 12 more. What were some of the organizational principles in terms of why did this individual make it and who made it and who didn't make it? Do it from that perspective.
Okay, well, I'll talk about my first portrait. It was of Ice Cube. It was after I saw the movie Straight Outta Compton. I know the movie wasn't family oriented, but it showed me how Ice Cube has gone from this environment and he's grown himself into what he is today. He's a positive role model now. He's a producer, he's a father, he's an actor, so he's really established and he's been resilient and he's persisted through all these acts as a child or when he was younger. And I think that's really important, is to keep pushing on, be persistent and push through anything. And then Barack Obama, the first black president, and that's just something you have to highlight no matter what. I also have Maya Angelou, black poet, and a lot of females, a lot of women look up to her inspiration. I've done Michelle Obama, and right now she has her book Becoming. She's doing tours. She's the role model for black women, for young women. And I think that's really important to highlight people of that stature and just not any everybody. But I think there's a select people that I do, is people who I respect, who other people respect, who are African American, and people who are just positive role models to the community.
Well, now, how do you reproduce these items? We've got about a minute and a half here. How do you reproduce them, and what do you do? Do you make them for what, to sell or to what?